Everybody knows the big names: Disney, Universal, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, and the $150 a day or more price tags that can sometimes come along with them. And if you caught my recent video on Florida's most overrated tourist traps, you already know this state has plenty of places that maybe don't live up to the hype. And if you haven't seen that video yet, I will link to it in the description and the comments below, so you can check that one out. But today we're going to flip the script because Florida also has lots of amazing attractions that do live up to the hype, and most of them cost less than a single churro at the Magic Kingdom. And before we get going, just to be clear, there are no major theme parks on this list. We're saving Disney, Universal, and those other big guys for their very own overrated and underrated showdowns. These are some of the smaller, more authentic Florida attractions, the ones that don't have billion-dollar marketing budgets. Alright, got it? Let's do it. These are what I think are Florida's most underrated attractions. Let's start right in the heart of it all in Orlando, and we're going to start at Gatorland. You know what? I actually love this place. I unironically really do like Gatorland, especially just for what it is. It's a fun spot. And before Disney ever built Cinderella's castle, this place was here, the self-proclaimed alligator capital of the world. This is an old school park that opened way back in 1949, and it still feels like a trip back in time to when Central Florida tourism was a lot more about the swamps than the spectacle. You've got gator shows here, a breeding marsh, boardwalk trails, an observation tower, thousands of alligators, crocodiles mixed in there, birds, other animals you can look at, and if you're brave, a zip line that literally sends you flying right over a pond full of live alligators. This place is family owned, it's authentic, it just kind of feels old school, and it's one of the last true old Florida attractions still going strong. And that's what I love about this place. It's got that kitschy old Florida vibe, which just kind of does something for me. And it does kind of get viewed as one of those B or C tier attractions below the other major parks. And that may be fair, but it's still the original and it is a lot of fun. Especially if you go in with the right mindset and the right expectations. You're here for some lowbrow entertainment, to see lots of gators, walk around, kind of take in the spectacle and kind of the humor of it all. They really kind of lean into the humor of it all here, which I do really appreciate. And fun fact, Gatorland was one of the first places to breed the rare white leucistic alligator. But why is this underrated? Well, people compare it to the mega parks, but it's at a quarter of the price. No, it's not going to be the same experience as Disney or Universal, but it's a fraction of the price. You're still going to get a good, full, fun day out of it. So this place does have a lot of bang for its buck. And this place also runs great specials for Florida residents, so it's pretty cheap to visit if you live here. And it's got some pretty cheap annual passes too. So if you can't get enough of your gator fix in just one visit, and you need to keep coming on back, they've got you covered with the annual pass. The Devil's Den Prehistoric Spring in Williston, Florida. Deep under a North Florida pasture lies one of Florida's weirdest places. A sinkhole that opens into an underground spring glowing bright blue like an underwater lava lamp. They call it Devil's Den, which ironically is one of the most heavenly places you can swim in all of Florida. The 72-degree water is crystal clear year-round, and if you snorkel or dive here, you're going to see fossils embedded right in the rock walls from the Pleistocene era. That's right, ancient bones right beneath your flippers. Fun fact, it's named Devil's Den because on chilly mornings, steam will rise up through the opening, giving it a spooky hellfire in the pasture look from afar. You can bring your own gear, or you can rent it on site, and you've got one of the most surreal swims in Florida for less than a dinner at the Olive Garden. Dinosaur World in Plant City. So if you've ever driven between Orlando and Tampa on I-4, you may have seen those giant fiberglass dinosaurs and wondered what the heck this place even is. And I'm going to tell you, this is one of the best kitschy little roadside throwbacks in Florida. Dinosaur World. Not quite Jurassic Park, these dinosaurs aren't alive, but you are going to find 150 life-size fiberglass dinosaurs scattered through jungle trails. A T-Rex here, a Brontosaurus there, a Triceratops over there, with educational plaques explaining what you're looking at. This is the kind of place that hasn't changed in years, but I mean that in the best possible way. It's still really well kept and really well maintained, and probably a lot nicer than you might expect. Now, I will admit, when I first popped in here to check this place out when my kids were little, my expectations were a little bit low, to be honest, but I was pleasantly surprised, and when my kids were small, this place was in the rotation as one of those places we'd go to spend a fun afternoon. I would almost describe this place as a botanical garden crossed with a giant playground with lots and lots of dinosaurs in the mix. There's a fossil dig for kids, a pretty nice indoor dinosaur and fossil museum, and lots of cool photo ops around. Now there's no rides here, it's not that kind of theme park, but there is a tram tour you can catch if you want an even deeper dive into the world of dinosaurs. Sure, it's kind of corny, it's pretty kitschy, but that's really the point. This is old school Florida fun that costs about what you'd pay to park at Universal. Now I will say though, this place is aimed a lot more at kids and families with smaller kids, so take that into account if you're thinking of stopping by. If you're a grown-up, you might think this place is a bit corny and not really worth it, but kids love it. Now I think this place is underrated because you might see that big dinosaur outside and expect cheap roadside junk. You come in, you realize it's clean, it's lush, surprisingly well maintained, and a great place to take the kids for the afternoon. And real quick, if you're loving this kind of Florida content, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every week I share new hidden gems, secret places, underrated, overrated attractions, and places that the tourists don't usually see. Now we're gonna go to one of Florida's original attractions, Silver Springs State Park in Ocala, another really nice place that's worth visiting. Silver Springs is where Florida tourism almost really started. This is one of the first attractions in the entire state. Before there was Orlando, there was Ocala. And before there was theme parks, there was glass-bottom boats. And it's insanely cheap to visit. Just $2 gets you in the door here. The water is so clear you can see fish, turtles, and ancient artifacts resting on the riverbed below, all without getting wet. And it's really cinematic too. Old movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon and Tarzan were filmed here way back in the day when Hollywood needed to shoot underwater, but they needed crystal clear water to do that in. This was kind of their go-to spot. For a little bit more money, for about $15, you can glide across one of the prettiest spring systems in the state and feel like you've stepped into a 1950s postcard on one of their world-famous glass-bottom boat rides. And a fun fact, these boats have been running continuously for over 100 years. Far longer than Disney World was even a sparkle in Walt's eye. And an even more fun fact, this park is home to a colony of about 300 rhesus monkeys. Way back in the 1930s, the owners here decided it would be a great idea to release a few monkeys on an island in the middle of the Silver River to make the boat rides more exotic for tourists. But they didn't realize that those monkeys knew how to swim, and they quickly escaped that little monkey Alcatraz and they multiplied like crazy. Now there's about 300 of them in there. You can occasionally spot them on the walking trails, but they don't really like people too much. So for a better chance at spotting them, take a kayak up the river a little bit, and sometimes you will see them swinging around on the trees, down the way a little bit, down deeper into the river, a little bit past where the glass-bottom boats go. You can bring your own kayak if you have one, or you rent one here. And this is easily one of the best ways to experience the park. I do love kayaking here, and you can go on a beginner-friendly guided tour on a glass-bottom kayak too, so you can paddle around and look down and see the bottom from your kayak. Now, I think this place is underrated because it's beautiful. It is one of the most original attractions in Florida, and it's really cheap to get in here. Just $2, bring your own lunch, $15 if you want to do the glass-bottom boat tour, maybe a little bit more if you want to go on a kayak, but for just $2, you can't beat it. Staying in the Springs and another old school attraction, Weeki Wachee Springs State Park in Weeki Wachee. Now immediately everybody knows about this place for their mermaids. Real mermaids underwater performing synchronized ballets in a 400-seat theater built right into a spring. But you know what makes this place worth the price? The water park. Right outside is Buccaneer Bay, Florida's only spring-fed water park. You've got a sandy beach, some water slides that drop you straight into that nice crisp 72-degree water. Perfect retro Florida fun. And if you want to really enjoy the river here, the Weeki Wachee River, you can go kayaking along the river. You can bring your own, of course, or you can rent one here, and they have a great program where you can put in here. Then a few miles down, there's a little outlet there where you can take your kayak out. They're going to put you on a truck and drive you back, so you don't have to fight against the current to get all the way back. Now, I think this place is underrated because a lot of people are going to think it's just a cheesy old mermaid show from the 1950s or whatever. But for under $15, you get the mermaid show, you can walk around the grounds, you can go in the water park. I really think taking advantage of the water park will get you a lot of bang for your buck here. and you have a chance to go kayaking along one of Florida's most beautiful rivers. Florida Caverns State Park in Marianna. Now, a lot of people didn't know this, maybe you didn't even know this, but Florida actually has caves. Real dry caves, not just those underwater caves like you may have seen people diving through, with stalactites, stalagmites, and spooky lighting straight out of a heavy metal music video. And you might be thinking, alright, but they're probably like really small, right? Like a room or two, maybe a few feet deep. Well, you might be surprised there too. Florida Caverns State Park in Marianna is one of Florida's most unique places, and it will probably blow away your expectations when you come here. It really blew me away. I was expecting, a little rinky-dink cave, but I was actually stunned at how amazing this place was. I loved my visit here. The park offers guided hour-long tours through a limestone labyrinth filled with eerie formations that are beautifully lit and some really interesting history to go along with it. And I think it's underrated because no one really believes Florida has caves or even really thinks about it until they see this place, and then they can't stop talking about it. It will really defy your expectations. Alright, from the Panhandle all the way to the Florida Keys, we're going to stop in Rain Barrel Village in Isla Morada. If you've ever driven through the Florida Keys, you may have seen Betsy, a 30-foot giant lobster statue guarding the entrance to Rain Barrel Village. But this place is a little bit more than a selfie stop. It's a colorful open-air art village full of galleries, handmade crafts, and quirky Keys vibes. Admission is free, we love that. The atmosphere is relaxed, and the people are as colorful as the artwork. Just a very stereotypical Florida Keys place. I think it's underrated because a lot of people will see that big lobster and think, roadside kitsch. But it's free, it's friendly, and it's a perfect little Keys pit stop with great photo ops if you're making that long drive from Miami to Key West or back. The Stetson Mansion in DeLand. And yeah, that Stetson, as in the cowboy hat guy. Way back in 1886, John B. Stetson built himself a winter home right here that looks like something out of Downton Abbey. It's all stained glass, wood carvings, and Gilded Age opulence. And it's been perfectly restored. During the holidays, that's when this place really goes all out with extravagant Christmas decor that looks like Santa hired an interior designer, and they just went wild. This is one of the most beautiful Christmas light displays in the entire state. Now, this place is a little bit on the pricier side for this list. For about $40, you get a guided tour through one of Florida's grandest private homes and the story of the man who made hats for presidents and cowboys. And yeah, $40 may be a little bit on the steep end, especially for this list where I was trying to keep things cheap, and it may not be the most entertaining thing for kids, but the tour is really detailed if you're into that kind of thing and if you're into old Florida history, and you want to tour a mansion that once belonged to America's biggest cowboy hat baron. Now, fun fact, Thomas Edison himself helped design the home's electrical system, making it one of the first homes in all of Florida with electricity. Now, I think it's underrated because while it may be pricey, especially compared to some of the things on this list, the detail and storytelling make it one of the state's most unique history tours. Popping back up to Central Florida, we're going to go to Bach Tower Gardens. This is midway between Orlando and Tampa, a little bit off of I-4 a bit, and right there sits one of Florida's quietest masterpieces, Bach Tower Gardens. This was built in the 1920s by publisher Edward Bach as a gift of beauty to the American people. It's a 200-foot marble and coquina tower that doubles as a carillon. Surrounding it are 50 acres of lush gardens designed by landscape legend Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. You can stroll, birdwatch, or just sit on a bench and pretend your phone doesn't exist and soak in the peaceful vibes. And this tower sits on top of Iron Mountain, and I'm using mountain in air quotes. It's about 200 feet tall, but it's actually one of the highest points on the Florida Peninsula. Fun fact, the tower has 60 bells that plays live carillon concerts every single day, so you can hear them echo across the entire area. Now, I think it's underrated because a lot of people assume it's just a garden, but you get to walk around some beautiful architecture, listen to some music, and see some of the most beautiful panoramic Florida views around. And finally, we're heading down to Coral Gables for what just might be the most beautiful swimming pool in the entire country, the Venetian Pool. This was built in 1924 out of a coral rock quarry, and this place looks more like an Italian resort than an old municipal swimming pool. It's fed by a natural underground spring, it's surrounded by waterfalls, bridges, and palm trees that make you forget you're just minutes from downtown Miami. And back in the day, this was the place to be around here. During the Roaring 20s, orchestras even played live music while people swam. It's even listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the only public pool in the entire country with that honor. And every morning, they even drain and refill this thing with fresh spring water. Fun fact, the pool once even featured gondolas, just like Venice, and a high diving platform, back when insurance would allow stuff like that at a public pool. So why is it underrated? Well, because everyone comes to Miami for South Beach, and hardly anyone realizes there's a crystal clear spring-fed oasis hiding right there in plain sight. For less than 20 bucks, you can swim in living history, one of the most beautiful and historic swimming pools in the country, without getting sand in your shoes and without needing to rent a cabana for 500 bucks. Hey, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think the most underrated and, hey, the most overrated attractions in Florida are. And if you like this, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stick around because I have new videos every week exploring everything from Florida's weirdest attractions to underrated beach towns and hidden state parks. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you around the Sunshine State.